Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another addition to my technology themed videos, and today is going to be all about using online assessments. I'm going to share with you some of my favorite online assessment tools and just ways that will help your classroom and make your life a little bit easier. So if you're interested, just keep watching. So starting off, when I say online assessment tools, I mean different websites that allow you to assess your students and get like immediate data on them. And some of my favorites are Kahoot. I feel like Kahoot's one that like everyone knows. Kahoot is a great one if you have a class set of some sort of technology, whether that be iPads, Chromebooks, whatever. I think that's a great one if you have a class set. Another great one if you don't have a class set is Quizizz, and that one allows you to, it's very, very similar to Kahoot in the way that it runs, but you don't have to do it at the same time. So like I can send the quiz to my students through Google Classroom, and then each of them can kind of take it whenever they maybe have the Chrome. I do have a class set of Chromes, but I still use this during like rotations. Maybe during that rotation they'll have a quiz. So it would be a great one if you don't have a class set. If they kind of rotate through, then it wouldn't matter because each kid can still take the test. They just don't take it at the same time. You can also assign them for homework. I don't do that, but you could assign them for homework as well. Another one of my favorites, if you don't have any technology but you still want to use some sort of like online assessment, is Plickers. And Plickers, like clickers but with a P, and the students basically have a little card, and the card is almost similar to like a QR code looking, and each side of the, like, I'm gonna call it a square. Each side of the square has a different letter, and so you display the question using your phone, using some sort of technology on your screen. You control it though using your handheld device, whatever that may be. And then once the students decide what they want, they hold up the card, the direction of which they of which answer they would pick. So if they pick A, they would hold it up to where the A is on the top, and then if they pick B, like the card would be held like a different way. And so then what you do is you take your whatever handheld device you're using, whether that be an iPad, your phone, anything like that, and you basically like just scan the room, and it picks up the square from each student and will automatically grade it. So you can see right then and there like who's getting it right and who's getting it wrong. It does take like a little bit of practice, I would say, to figure it out and kind of work with it, but I think once you practice and once your students have it down, it's really, really fun for them. And I don't know, I think it's pretty cool too. And that's a great one if you don't have any technology, or maybe you guys, like, you and your team sort of rotate your Chromes. I know a lot of people get like the Chromebooks maybe 1 or 2 days a week. That's something you could do in between and still have that online data that makes it easier for you to look at and easier for you to just like track. And then the last one, which is something that I personally have, but maybe not everyone has, is using your curriculum. A lot of times your curriculum will have online assessments that you can assign to your students. Our math curriculum and our ELA curriculum are both from 2 different companies. One of them is McGraw-Hill, one of them is Pearson, and both of them have that like capability. So with our Pearson, that's our math, they have like sort of like exit tickets, I guess you would call them. They're quick checks to see, you know, 5-question quiz to check their understanding. They also have end of topic tests and stuff like that. And then with the ELA, they have a bunch of different assessments that you can assign through the website. And as long as your kids have access to that, that's something that they could do too. So if you have something like that, I would definitely look into it, because I'd rather, like, I know personally I like to use the curriculum ones before I start creating stuff on my own, just because it does save me time and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So some of the reasons that I use digital assessments in my classroom is because it allows me to quickly group up students like on the spot. Like I can have my class take a quiz and I can immediately say, okay, you know, my kids who got from an 80 to 100%, I'm going to throw the enrichment for you, and then, you know, so on and so forth. I can really quickly see that, and I don't have to take the time to grade, which also leads into, it saves you so much time in terms of grading because the computer does it for you. You don't have to sit there and, you know, have that teacher bag full of assessments that need to be graded that never get touched, and by the time they get touched and you give them back to the students, the feedback is not even valuable anymore because you're past that point. The kid is just going to throw it in their backpack and they're not going to care about it anymore. Versus on-the-spot feedback allows them to kind of understand where they went wrong, and it allows you to really quickly be like, oh, they don't know, you know, this skill very well. I need to reteach it before I can move on. Versus giving a quiz and then like correcting it even 3 days later and realizing, oh shoot, they didn't know how to do that and I kept moving on, and now, you know, my kids are going to be stuck. Timely feedback is such an important thing for students, and it also, a lot of the websites give them the answer right afterwards, so they're able to see, you know, whether or not they got it right or whether they got it wrong, and then they can hopefully decide, you know, why they got that problem wrong or why, or how they got the problem correct. With my students, specifically on our quick checks, if they get any questions wrong, our Pearson test doesn't actually give them the correct answer, but it will tell them once they turn it in that the answer was wrong. And so what I have my students do is they have to go back in and look at the question and figure out how they're going to fix it. So they have to fix the problem. I have like a little sheet that they fill out, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever question they got wrong, they go to that box and they just fix it. So hopefully get it right the second time, because there is a difference between like an error versus a mistake. A mistake is just like it was a really quick fix kind of thing. So if you said, hey, you know, you forgot to, I don't know, do this part of it, and they're like, oh yeah, I totally, you know, silly mistake kind of thing. Versus an error is more like they don't understand the concept still, and even with you telling them they got it wrong, they're still unable to solve it. So there's a big difference when a student gets a question wrong, whether or not they know it and they just made a silly mistake, or they just still don't know the content. So it goes back to the kind of immediate feedback. They're able to immediately fix the answer and figure out where they went wrong, and not wait or just like accept the fact that they got you know, 20% on their test. They can be like, oh, I got a 20%, I need to fix it so I can figure out, you know, for tomorrow how to fix my understanding or check my understanding. And one of the last reasons I like to use digital assessments in my classroom, because it kind of gives that gamified teaching style, I guess. I know kids are extremely highly engaged when something is sort of gamified, and especially like Kahoot. My kids go crazy over Kahoot. Like, I can only do Kahoot if the classroom next to me is at recess, because we are like different grade level, and they have to be at recess in order for me to do Kahoot, because my kids will like be screaming if they got the question right. Like, they are so engaged, they are so into what they're doing, and they get excited about it. And so it kind of adds that, like, you know, sense of excitement back to teaching, versus just being like, here's a quiz, answer your questions, okay, we're done kind of thing. And so it allows you to just sort of gamify it and get that student engagement level up tremendously. And even not with Kahoot, but just like online in general, I just think my students are more engaged because they prefer to do stuff online. Maybe not as much like the Pearson tests that we do. They're not quite as fun, but like, I think it's the quizzes ones that give them funny little memes after they're done with a question. So as soon as they're finished, it'll like pop up a meme on the screen that's just like a funny, like, kid appropriate meme, but the kids love it, and it's super cute. So it just continues to keep them engaged versus just like question after question. And then they always love Plickers because it just like, they think it's so cool that they get to hold up their card and like it's grading the classroom, which I honestly think it's like the coolest thing too. So I really think that the online assessments help to increase your student engagement more than a paper test would. There's so many reasons as to why I think using online assessments is such a better way to do it. And if you have any other ideas, those are just like the ideas that I have, but if you have any other ideas about it, leave it in the comments down below so I can see your ideas as well. I like to learn from you guys too and see what you guys do in your classroom, even if you don't have a YouTube channel, but I would still love to learn from you. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you found any new tips or ideas, make sure you give it a thumbs up as well so I know that you liked the content. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe, and if you haven't followed me on Instagram, make sure you follow me over there as well at My Second Grade Life, and I will catch you guys in my next video.